Hello, my friend, and welcome back or welcome to Something for Everybody. My name is Aaron Mashbitz, and this is a solo episode of the podcast where I'm discussing young men. More specifically, we have a massive silent crisis right now, and nobody seems to want to talk about it. Young men are dropping out, they're isolated, they're increasingly angry, and they're struggling to find their place in this world. And this isn't just about personal struggle, it's a social ticking time bomb. Hello, my friend. Before we jump straight into the episode, I would love to share the sponsors of this podcast. And the sponsors of this podcast are all the businesses that I've created that are really part of the ecosystem that run this whole thing. And at the top of that list is Patreon. Patreon is the home of our exclusive community where we do bonus episodes, live streams, Q&As, and merch discounts, and so much more. Patreon is the number one way to support this podcast and to support my mental health nonprofit called You Are Loved. Next, we have my clothing brand called Shop for Everybody. Every hat and every t-shirt you see me wear on every single episode of this podcast is from Shop for Everybody. It's the home of For the Dads, For the Moms, all Something for Everybody merch, and it's the home of all You Are Loved merch. So that's shopforeverybody.com. And the last thing is my sports performance brand called Champions Adjust. Again, if you see anything Champions Adjust related, it's all found at champsadjust.com. It also has its own podcast. We also do a sports show through Champions Adjust. And if you're looking for any mindset or mental skills classes, they can all be found at champsadjust.com. And so if you want to stay up to date on everything that we're doing here with all of the businesses that I'm involved in, please go to aaronmashbitz.com and sign up for our weekly newsletter. Thank you. Now, on to the episode, completely uninterrupted and ad-free. Here we go. And so I'm going to break down the data and reveal this great no BS, tough love approach and advice from the great Scott Galloway, who has really become, the virtual mentor that every young man needs. And also I'm pulling insights from a recent blog post by the amazing Tim Ferriss, who has also been very open and honest about his mental health struggles. And so the combination of Scott Galloway and Tim Ferriss can be really great in terms of uplifting young men and actually being honest about the struggles they're going through and allowing society to actually have empathy for this struggle and actually realizing that it's a real issue that needs real attention. And so I deeply value the insights from Tim Ferriss and Scott Galloway, and I've learned a great deal from both of them. And I think you can also learn a great deal from both of them through this episode and through the things that I'm going to break down here. And so anyways, Scott Galloway wrote a great new book called Notes on Being a Man. And in that book, he shares some very, very chilling stats based on his research. Very chilling. They should make you stop and reflect and think and really come to terms with how you think about men and how they're struggling in today's society. So I'm going to share those stats with you right now. So listen to this. Men are dropping out of college at a higher rate, leading to a graduation ratio of roughly 33% men to 66% women. The percentage of young men aged 20 to 24 who are neither in school nor working has tripled since 1980. Here's the kicker on isolation. 45% of men ages 18 to 25 have never approached a woman in person. Between 2008 and 2018, the share of men who hadn't had sex in the last year rose from 8% to 28%. And because dating apps create this sort of massive imbalance where the top 10% of men get up to 90% of the attention, that isolation contributes to a huge susceptibility to, misogynistic or extremist content online. The spiral is real, but the direst of stats are where the aggression and the hopelessness go when they aren't channeled, which means men now are 3 times more likely to overdose, 4 times more likely to die by suicide, and 12 times more likely to be incarcerated. These aren't just numbers. I'm talking about real people, real lives. These are real human beings, real men who are deeply, deeply struggling. So please become aware of this. Please understand this is real. And these stats underscore why young men really, really need our attention, help, and empathy. And so Tim and Scott and really all the great teachers, including myself, say focus on the basics, be brilliant at the basics, focus on the fundamentals. So that's what we're going to talk about here. Here are 4 simple but deeply important foundational things that any young man can master. So let's say pillar number 1 is fitness and nutrition, which means moving and eating well. What do you eat and drink? Is it just Red Bull and Cheetos and sativa gummies? How do you think that affects your body and your brain? Well, some eating rules to think about, right? Is like 1, stop drinking your sugar and eat more real foods. That's eating well. Are you moving? Are you moving every single day? Young men need to take advantage of their muscle mass and testosterone to get physically strong, learn discipline, effort, and consistency through working out, and then apply those principles to other areas of your life. Become a damn monster. Dr. Jordan Peterson style says, become the most dangerous man you can possibly become an absolute monster, and then get it under voluntary control. So pillar number 1 has to be fitness and nutrition, or eating well and moving well. Again, thinking about eating well, the 2 rules you can apply to your life right away for eating well are don't drink your sugar and eat more real foods. And then move your body, honor your body, get physically strong and physically dominant as much as humanly possible. And then have that under voluntary control, right? The goal should be to work out 3, then 4 times a week. Download an app, track your progress, build up, find some people that you follow and mentor, get an app, or whatever the case may be. Use the free resources around you to absolutely build your body and learn that effort, discipline, and consistency through the gym, and then apply those values to everywhere in your life. But you got to move well and you got to eat well. That's pillar 1. And then we go to pillar number 2 is work and money. Young men have one source of capital, which is time. So first you need to make some money. You have to make some money. Get a part-time job driving for Lyft or doing TaskRabbit or working retail, right? Scott Galloway says a nice thing about making money is that you start developing a taste for it. It's fun, it's interesting, and making it is a good feeling. And I still think personally, like Scott as well, that being a provider is an important aspect of being a man. It's not your only value. Being a provider isn't your only value. Your value is intrinsic. The world needs you here as a man. You're valuable regardless of what you produce. But being a provider is important. Now, you don't have to be a baller right now, like Scott Galloway says, but you have to have the potential to be able to take care of yourself, your family, and your community. And that's about hard work and discipline and doing something that you care about. And you build those skills through working out, through the gym, through all those things. And then you find a way to use those skills to make money, to build a business, to do a job, whatever the case may be. And you do that job to the absolute best of your ability continuously over and over and over again, right? Dr. Jordan Peterson says, right, be the best damn dishwasher you can possibly be. And then you elevate yourself because you learn that skill of hard work and effort and getting things that you earn, and you can apply that to other areas of your life. And so that pillar number 2 is work and money. You have to be able to provide protection, provision. Those things are important aspects of being a man. And then you go to pillar number 3, which is time reallocation. How do you spend your time? Is it on your phone always? Scott asks young men to unlock their phone, track their activity, and reallocate those hours to more productive places. That means 30 minutes a day on TikTok, not 2 hours. 45 minutes a week on porn, not 2 hours, right? Reduce it, not eliminate, right? 45 minutes instead of 2 hours is a huge deal. Distilling that 6+ hours on Reddit and Discord and trading apps down to 2. You're trading your most valuable asset, which is time, for digital junk food. Again, we talked about eating well and moving well. If we're eating well, we're not drinking our sugar and we're eating more real foods. Well, digital junk food, we're not always watching porn or always on Reddit or always on Discord. I'm not saying completely eliminate all of those things from your life cold turkey. That's just not really how it works. When we think about habit change, we want to make those habits too small to fail and slowly, incrementally change them and then anchor on new habits. So like Scott Galloway says, 45 minutes a week on porn instead of 2 hours, right? 6+ hours on Reddit and Discord down to 2, right? To instead of 2 hours on TikTok, you're 45 minutes, right? You're just shrinking it down and using those other hours to allocate to bettering yourself, to productive things, to trying to make some money, to sending out emails or cold calls or selling stuff or getting rejected or going out to public for a coffee or whatever the case may be. We're using that to create a better life for ourselves instead of just consuming all of this digital junk food and this real junk food over and over and over again. And it's ruining our life. It's not creating the best version of ourselves in greatest service to the world. And that's what we can do as men. We can become the best version of ourselves in greatest service to the world. That's really, really important. And then pillar number 4 is being able to endure rejection. This is where the magic happens. Scott asks young men to place themselves in unfamiliar situations with strangers 3 times a week. A class, a nonprofit, a sports league. The one rule: within a month, they have to introduce themselves to everyone and ask a stranger out for coffee. The other person might say no, it might hurt, it might feel bad. But Scott says, you're still standing, you're not mortally wounded. The key, the skill, the talent, the ninja artistship no one teaches is your willingness to endure rejection. Get a callus, fall 7, rise 8. Get a callus, fall 7, rise 8. This is brutally practical. This advice is brutally practical. When a young man planned to quit his 100K job and move to Alaska with no job, Scott asked him, why are you being such an idiot right now? Bank 6 months of cushion, get a job first. And by the way, your mom with Parkinson's needs you. The guy hadn't thought of any of that. Mentorship isn't just isn't about deep philosophy. It's about context and accountability. And young men need more male role models and mentors. But the thing is like enduring rejection, going out and trying and putting yourself out there and falling and then rising and getting back up. And you realize that you didn't die every time you got rejected. Yeah, it sucks. It felt bad, but you grew stronger. You grew better. You grew more wise. You got better experience, and you're able to handle these types of things, whether it be asking a girl out or in business or all these sorts of things. You've built up the callus of being able to handle rejection, and you become much better for it. That's the power of these things. That's the power of putting yourself out there, of giving your best effort, of trying to become the best version of yourself in greatest service to the world. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And so again, young men need male role models. And I think Tim Ferriss and Scott Galloway can be those virtual role models for a lot of young men. I think that's very, very powerful that more people are talking about this. More people care about the plight of young men. More people care about you than you think, because the world needs you here. And there are a ton of people who want to see you flourish and succeed and be the best version of yourself. And so Scott Galloway and Tim Ferriss know the struggle is real, even for both of them. They've been honest about both of their struggles. And so to combat his own moments of depression or anxiety or anger, Scott came up with his own terrible, but effective sort of acronym, which is called SCAFA. SCAFA. S is for sweat, exercise, the closest thing to a cheap youth serum. So sweat, move your body. We talked about moving and eating well. C is for clean eating, home cooked food, cutting the trans fats, stop drinking your sugar, eat more real foods, right? A is for abstinence. Potentially, we talked about, your time reallocation of reducing your times you watch porn or reducing your time on Reddit or Discord or TikTok or whatever, time reallocation. Maybe if things are not going well, maybe A now is for abstinence. A is short ban on alcohol, weed, and whatever hits, those real pleasure senses that you just need to sort of cleanse your body, right? And then F is for family. F is for family. Spend time with those you love. And the final A is for affection. Spending time with family, absorbing love from your wife, your kids, your friends, whatever the case may be. Scott talks about absorbing love from his wife, his sons, and his dogs. And so SCAFA is that important thing. SCAFA that Scott talks about, that he uses when he's combating his own bouts of depression and anxiety and all those things. And you can look more deeply into Tim Ferriss about how he deals with some of his mental health struggles and how he's dealt with it over the years. He's very open and honest about that. That's why I think Tim and Scott are extremely great role models for young men. They're also extremely successful investors and business people and podcasters and brilliant stuff like that. And so when we look at really the bottom line from Scott Galloway is this: young men need to stop being so hard on themselves. They're living in this digital ecosystem designed to make them feel like screw ups, while other voices whisper that the world is against them. Adolescence is hard. The 20s are harder, but the solution isn't to wallow. The solution is actionable steps, discipline, and building a callus against rejection. It's about being brilliant at the fundamentals of eating well, moving well, sleeping well, and thinking well, and being brilliant at those, and then using those 4 pillars that we talked about to become the best version of yourself in greatest service to the world. That's the juice. Thank you, Scott, and thank you, Tim, for advocating for young men and being role models for young men all over the world. I deeply appreciate it. I've learned a ton from you, and hopefully I was able to distill your information in a practical way that anyone who listened can apply into their life, whether it's a young man, whether it's a mom listening, whoever it is. These lessons, these pillars, these core basic fundamental principles can be applied to anyone, but I hope they're applied to the young men that are listening so that we, again, can become those best version of ourselves in greatest service to the world. So thank you very much for your time and attention. And the best thing you can possibly do is share this podcast with every single person that you know. That's the best marketing tool that we have. And I'll see you next time. Cheers. Thank you very much for tuning into that episode. And if you enjoyed it, click right here for another full-length episode of the podcast. And please don't forget to subscribe. But most importantly, above all else, please take good care of yourselves and others. And I'll see you next time. Lots of love. Cheers.